Welcome to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio hour and podcast. I'm your host, Coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Megan Gallagher. Megan has done quite a lot of things for herself in her young age of 24, and I'm excited to be talking to her because we are going to be talking on the topic teenage mental health, the anxiety epidemic. And especially in these unprecedented times, I'm understanding that one of the reasons that schools wanted to go back to school is because the teenagers are having a really hard time right now with being at home, lose loss of their friends. They're social creatures. And even though anxiety and depression has been there, it's much more prevalent now. So I thought that this conversation was important for the times that we're in right now. So welcome, Megan.
Thank you so much, Myrna, for having me. I am so honored to be here today.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to have you too. So yeah, it's an important topic. So thank you for from visiting.
Yes.
Megan is in San Francisco right now. So yeah, we're in a little different time zone. So that's awesome. All right. So let me give you a little bit more information on Megan. Megan Gallagher is a TEDx speaker, 4 times best-selling author, AfterBuzz TV host, writer, advocate, anxiety advocate for teens, writer for the Today Show website, and a podcast host.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. While growing up, Megan experienced chronic anxiety and panic attacks, as well as body image issues. She was inspired by the lack of honest conversations among her teachers and peers about real life topics.
Yes.
After healing herself, she dove headfirst into making that change in the public school system. She currently speaks at middle schools and high schools about mental health, self-care, following your dreams, and mindfulness. She has spoken to over 500 schools and has been featured in major media outlets like Forbes magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, The Today Show, OK Magazine, NBC News, and Fox News. So I wasn't lying when I said that she's done a lot for her young life. So it is my pleasure to be talking to you, Megan.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you've decided to advocate and to make a change in, in the world. I mean, because young people are going to listen to someone young. So it's all right for, their grandmothers or their moms to talk to them about things. But, if they're hearing it from a young person as successful as you, then, that's a good thing. So the first question I have is always usually an introduction. So that those watching in YouTube and those listening on the radio or podcast can understand your journey and how you get from where you were to where you are right now. So can you tell our listeners how you traversed your painful childhood? What exactly caused your anxiety, and how did you become an anxiety mental health advocate?
Yes. So for me, growing up, as young as I can really remember, I have memories even in elementary school. I have vivid memories of just sitting in class and noticing my stomach felt like it was churning, and noticing, I started getting really sweaty under my armpits, and all these things would happen. And I didn't really know, what triggered that like spiral of symptoms and events. And I just never really could put the puzzle pieces together. I would think, well, did I eat something weird, at lunch? Did I eat weird food? Or maybe something's not sitting right, or maybe I have the flu, or I have a cold, or I never knew. And then, my parents are wonderful parents. They did a wonderful job of raising me and my older sister. And they were always very aware and very, observant of my behavior from a young age. And so my mom always knew that I was the more sensitive, just child that needed more attention. And I kind of would get worked up before, going to a family dinner from an early age. I wanted just to be alone or just be with my mom. I think going to crowded public places really overwhelmed me. And I think, just the idea, and it was always before. So that was something that my parents took notice of from early on. They would say, okay, well, so Megan tends to freak out, before an event happens. So
Mm,
before, so before a family dinner, before an outing, before anything, my mind, even, when I'm 5 years old and I can't really, speak like this, and I can't
right.
express my feelings, I would just start crying. And, because I didn't, as a child and a toddler, that's how you express yourself.
Right.
If you have a fever, if you feel sick, you just cry, and the baby cries, and until you
Yeah.
figure out
Yeah.
what's wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Mhm.
so from an early age, I was always anxious and always just really worried and overthinking. And then I would say it wasn't until I was 13 years old in 8th grade, about to graduate to go to high school, when I just, it just kind of like reared its head up. And also, you're old enough in 8th grade to realize that, wow, I'm going through puberty, I'm learning about my body, and things
Mhm.
are changing. But I was also old enough, to just like be aware of my emotions, and I was more in tune with my body. And of course, as you're older, you can speak
Right.
more, but I just was more aware of, wow, I would call them episodes because I
That's
did
right.
not know what they were, but I just would think, wow, these episodes are really scary and they feel like they're coming out of nowhere. And then I just, feel like I literally, it's hard for me to focus if I'm sitting in a classroom, and I feel like I just literally want to get up and leave, like get out of my own skin. I just want to get up and go to the bathroom and like just breathe and freak out. Like I don't want to be around people. I want to just have a moment for myself. And so that was, just moments that I remembered so much in 8th grade of asking my teachers, can I go to the bathroom? And then I would go to the bathroom, but I didn't
Right.
have to go to the bathroom, and I would just literally,
Now that you have been able to look back at that, do you think
yes.
it's because you're an introvert? Did you put a label on it?
Well, so it's funny because I'm actually the most social extroverted person ever. Like
Mm,
I thrive off of being around people, and I love having, a big friend group, and I love hanging out with people. So I wouldn't say I'm an introvert. I would say I'm just like a high functioning anxious person. And,
okay.
I like
Right.
to, it makes
Okay.
me feel good, to accomplish a lot and to get a lot done.
Okay.
Um, and I think a really big way that, and I know you can go one of two ways. There can be people who, show their depression and their anxiety through kind of, they shut down and they kind of
Right.
isolate themselves. But for
Right.
me, I found comfort in, talking about my feelings. Like I just love talking and being around people. So I really, really feel like for me, I just loved being around people. I always have. And I love hosting events and parties and having people over. But, and, now I'm 24. Um, so I don't really get the anxiety anymore. I still have moments where if I feel like I have a lot of work stuff piling up, or if I'm worried if I'm gonna, have enough time to get a good night's rest, or whatever the
Right.
worried
Right.
thought, I
Natural worry like everybody else gets.
yes. I know how to handle it though. And I really, I
Mhm.
know how to stop the negative thoughts before it turns into, a
Something. Right.
full-blown panic attack or
Right.
something worse. So I know myself better.
Okay. All right. So you went to high school
Yes.
and you obviously the anxiety probably got worse, right?
Yes. So when I got into high school, I know the story continues, but
Sure.
yes. So when I got into high school, so I started high school in 2010. I was a freshman.
Mhm.
Um, and I back home, like right now I'm in my parents' house and this is the room that I grew up in. So in my hometown, I live a little bit outside of San Francisco. I mean, my parents do, but I grew up here in the Bay Area in Northern California. And so I started high school 2010. I was a freshman, and, it was just really, it was a very challenging time, just as it is for anyone. I don't know many people who say that, like, they had the most wonderful middle school or high school experience. I think that's a rare thing, to be honest.
All right.
But yeah, so I just, I remember vividly my freshman year. I remember so well, gearing up the summer and counting down the days until my first day of high school. And I had the normal thoughts of, oh my gosh, where's my locker? I'm going to, I can't, what if I get lost? What if what ifs?
What
Because,
is right? Great. Mm-hmm.
I'm here in this moment and I should have stayed in the present moment, but my mind, is trying to anticipate, oh my gosh, what's going to happen 2 months from now, 1 month, it's 3 weeks, it's 2 weeks. But, the truth of the matter is I can't control the future. I don't know what's going to happen. But I think with anxiety, that's the main thing is
right.
You have such a fear of losing control, because to people with anxiety, being in control is what you want, because you feel like you aren't in control of your mind. So you have to take control in your life. So for a lot of people, and this is something that I've, my anxiety has manifested itself in different ways throughout my life. But when I was younger in high school, I had not an eating disorder, but I had for a little bit, some like unhealthy eating habits, and I got very thin. And so, I think like I've had so many moments where my anxiety, it's all about control, because you feel so out of control. And
okay.
God forbid if like your parents are divorced, or if you are in a negative, toxic family household, or anything where, you feel like it is really out of control, it blows it up. And so you yourself, to take your power back, that
control things, right? Mm-hmm.
Eating disorder, not eating a lot of food, trying to control your portions, trying to control, I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on. But yes, freshman year of high school, my anxiety got really bad, and I will never forget, like, I can remember anything like my whole entire life. I have a really good memory. And
Okay.
I remember, sitting in my freshman year, the English class, and I remember the way that the classroom looked and the layout and everything. And I remember my teacher just talking about the book, The Odyssey, the Greek mythology book. We were reading that as our first book, and it was about, I think, September of 2010, so the beginning of my freshman year of high school. And I remember, he's talking about, okay, so kids, so this is, you're gonna read these chapters by this time, and all this is due. And I just remember something in my brain just went like off. And I just remember like, one moment I was totally taking notes. Okay, this is homework in my, the student planner. And then my mind just, something happened where I felt like I blacked out. Like from that, I just stopped, taking
Receiving
in
from him. Right.
I stopped taking in the information, and my mind went to a different place, and I felt like I got shot off, into space. And I was like, whoa, what is going on? And then, my mind, I just started getting really hot and sweaty, and like, seeing stars, like my eyes, my vision got very like tunnel vision, and the room kind of felt like it was like spinning. And
right. Wow.
it was so scary, and it's so uncomfortable in public, to be going through that, because you're like, you don't want to be looking like this, and people are like, what's wrong with Megan? So,
is that anxiety though, or something else?
It was anxiety. But, the thing about anxiety is, if you aren't educated on it, or if you don't know that it runs in your family, you can feel like, it can mimic a heart attack or a stroke, or it can mimic so many, life-threatening health conditions, where you you don't like, you think you're gonna die. Like, you just feel so
Wow.
like the world is ending. And so from that moment on, for, I would say, my freshman, sophomore, junior year of high school, my mind, that episode happened at 9 a.m. in English class. So then the next day, nothing was wrong, but then something in my body, that internal clock, started saying, oh wait, it's 9 a.m. Yesterday I felt this way. So today I have to feel the same exact way. And so
Wow. Wow.
I got
Yeah. And your anxiety increased. Yep.
I got myself in a really vicious cycle. And I
Right.
really,
Yes.
I
Wow.
really, it got so deep too. I got so, deep in the ditch where I felt like I felt like a prisoner to my own mind. I
Mind.
felt like I
Yeah.
was, I had no control. And
Okay.
it was really, really, really hard to like reprogram my mind to know that, one, this is, I am still doing this. Like, it's still me, Megan. It's still me somewhere doing this. It's not, some hidden monster or like, the Wizard of Oz, like this,
Right. Right.
it's
Right.
not like a secret thing. It's me. And so, I remember about, I would say, the like middle end of my sophomore year of high school. So this is about a year and a half of not telling anyone, and my grades were just, dropping, and my grades were getting really bad, and I was getting like D's and F's. And my eating habits were really unhealthy. I would, wake up in the morning and I wouldn't eat anything. I would just have water, and I would go to high school. And then throughout the whole day, this is from 8:15 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon, I wouldn't eat anything. And then when I got home, I would, kind of binge eat, and it was really unhealthy. But my
And then did you
anxiety,
make yourself throw up? Were you anorexic? I think not anorexic,
bulimic,
bulimic, right? Yeah. Did you make
right?
yourself
So,
throw up after you binged?
so no, so I didn't
Okay.
make myself throw up. So that's, I don't think it was an eating disorder. I think it was anxiety related,
Okay.
control, because I would eat food. I wouldn't make myself throw up, and I would eat a normal dinner, but my anxiety was so bad because I really felt like, oh my gosh, I had this fear of, if I eat, food before school or at school, I'm gonna throw up. Like, my mind had this like
Okay.
this played out
Got you.
story.
Got
I'm
you.
gonna
Got you.
throw up in front of people,
People,
on the
you're gonna
floor,
laugh at me.
history
Right. Right.
class,
Right.
and
Wow.
everyone's gonna see me. So it was this fear
Okay.
of, you know,
Right.
embarrassing myself. And it went
Okay.
back to me losing control, because,
Okay.
it's all about the control thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So wow.
Yeah.
I I understand your heartache and your trauma, and
Yes.
that was a very good description of your pain. And the great thing about it is that one of the reasons we do this show is that someone listening might identify with
Right.
that, which is obviously why
Right.
you do it. But I want to transition. So, how did you decide to start talking at school, or how did you become an advocate?
So I would say, once I healed in high school and, sophomore year ended, so the kind of big first step that I took, because I knew, it just, my anxiety had reached a point where I felt like I was being cornered in a wall, where I'm like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And something is just, I have to ask for help, because
Okay.
my grades are slipping. They're getting so bad, and I'm not focusing in class. And, like, my social life was fine. I had a really great group of friends. But I just felt like, I can't, like, I kept on thinking, this isn't like, is this really what life really is? I felt
Okay.
like would wake up in the morning, and I felt like I was, preparing for battle every single day. I was like, oh, this is going to happen, and then I'm going to feel this way. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
reached a point where I was like, this just doesn't feel like a really great quality of life. And I feel like you know, I can improve. Like, I feel like I can do better. This to me just isn't really how I want to live my life. Like every day, you know, feeling this drained and exhausted and tired and overwhelmed. So, you know, I like mid sophomore year, I sat my parents down after dinner one night. My sister went off to her room and my parents were just watching TV. And I remember vividly, you know, preparing in my room, like gearing up. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And then I like walked out and I was so nervous. My hands were like shaking. And I was like, Mom, Dad, can I talk to you guys for a second? And they like looked at me and turned off the TV and they were like, okay, you know, let's go in the living room. So we go into our living room and they were kind of like, what's up, Megan? And I just, you know, I took a deep breath and I was like, and then basically for 2 hours, it just all came out, you know, how I was feeling and I was crying and just, it all came out. And I really, really, really just, you know, expressed myself. And I felt really, you know, my parents did a really great job because they just allowed me just to lay it all out there. And they never once, you know, gave me a look that was like, are you making this up? They never once did anything. And they just, you know, they, at the end, when I was kind of done sharing, you know, I don't know what's going on. I have these episodes throughout the school day and, you know, I feel it's scary and I don't know what to do. So, you know, they kind of looked at each other and then they said, well, Megan, we love you so much. And we're so happy and glad that you told us. And that's a really brave thing that you did. And they just said, well, what you're feeling, you know, it runs on your dad's side of the family and it has a name. It's called anticipatory anxiety. And to me, the moment my mom said that,
Okay.
it just all clicked. Like it all clicked. And I was like, oh my gosh, wait, like, first of all, to like as a teenager, to have your parents validate you, it's the most, you know, really profound thing ever to have your parents not say, oh no, like you're lying, you know, you're making this up for attention, or, you know, you're just being dramatic, or it's just a phase. Like, you know, they really just did such a great job of holding the space, and they took me seriously, and they said, okay, Megan, like we're going to put you in therapy and your first session is next week. And so, you know,
Okay.
once I started therapy, that kind of, you know, took me on the path of, most importantly, healing. And I really, you know, I did a few different forms of therapy. The first one I did was, you know, normal talk therapy, where it's just the
Right.
typical, you know, talking with someone, taking notes. The second one, I did hypnotherapy, which where you lie on a couch and, you know, someone talks you into like a hypnotic state where you can, like, you know, reach your subconscious mind. And then I also worked with an EFT specialist. So, you know, EFT tapping, I did that for a little bit. So, you know, those three teachers and therapists, I worked with them till the end of high school, I would say. So for about a year and a half, which I feel so grateful for, because I know that not everyone has the financial means to do that. And I just feel very, very lucky and very grateful for my experience, and, you know, how well off I had it. Because I know a lot of teenagers, you know, I mean, when you are a teenager, you know, you're forming who you are, who you're going to become in this world. So I just feel very lucky that my parents, you know, just like really, really loved me and very, you know, really cared about me.
Well, most parents love their kids. What you're and a lot of times, you know, you hear about parents getting it wrong because they're saying, you know, we don't have a manual for this. You know what I mean? But
Right.
because I think your parents, um, you said that it happened on your dad's side,
Yes.
so they were aware of it and give it a name. They had the means to help
Yeah.
you. So that was great. You know, I've interviewed guests where I interviewed a guy where he was bipolar,
Wow.
and he had a totally different experience from you,
Right.
because when he went to his parents, they couldn't help him out.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So totally different experience. they didn't understand, they didn't know. A lot of times they would beat him because he was bad. You know what I mean? So yeah, because bipolar depression, you're manic, you're high, you're different. So
Yeah.
you were lucky in a lot of ways. Not only did your parents love you enough to validate your story, they
Yes.
loved you enough to give you help, and they loved you enough to give you a label and maybe let you know that you're not a freak, because a lot of times teenagers think that way. Something wrong with me, I'm a freak or whatever. They're telling you, hey, there's a history of it. And I know
Yeah.
and maybe your listeners do not, but mental illness sometimes is always, hereditary, runs in the family kind of thing.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
right. So, they had direct experience with it. So that's great. So I'm going to jump ahead of the story a little bit. So I'm assuming that after you got help, then you wanted to help others. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
So I it's kind of a funny story. So when I graduated high school 2014, and by that time I was in a much better place. I, had learned so much. I felt like a whole different person. And I think therapy is honestly the best thing in the world. And I'm such an advocate. I think everyone should do therapy because, one thing I have also realized being an adult, a young adult, I've realized that, there's no such thing as perfection. And
Right.
every single person on this planet has their own stuff. It doesn't have to have been something like so traumatic, but every person, has baggage. Some people have just,
Everybody has a story. Very
yes.
true. And it
And
doesn't have to be that you were born in a
yeah,
third world country like me or anything like
right,
that. You can be right
right,
here in the US. You can
right.
be poor, you can be rich. You have a story. It's
Yes.
very true. Right.
Something my therapist I remember in high school told me was, she's like, okay, so Megan, everyone in life has baggage. Some people, like you're getting on a plane, some people just have a little carry-on and that's it. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
others have like four,
Truckload.
large, like, she said some people have designer baggage. Some people have, just a
That's,
trash bag. Like,
yeah.
but
That's
everyone has something
a
to bring on a
very
plane.
good way of looking at it. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She said that. She's like, just remember everyone
Right.
has something,
Mm-hmm.
whether, you were raised in a certain household, religion, anything that, and also she said it's perfectly normal when you're coming into your own in your early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, you're forming your own identity. And she said it's perfectly normal to, kind of have realizations of, I like what that thing that my parents did or the way that they raised me and my siblings, I actually didn't really enjoy that, and maybe I don't want to, or I do want to carry that tradition on to my own children and the family I create one day. So it's just it's important to remember that everyone has
Yeah.
baggage and
Yeah, yeah. Well,
like I
that's going to help someone, because everybody
yeah,
always feels that they're the only one,
yeah,
especially when we're talking about teenagers. They're very self-absorbed, and they should be, because you're right.
yes.
They're coming into their own, and everything is about them.
Mhm.
And they. I love the label too. Anticipatory. How do you say that? Anticipatory.
Exactly. You got it. Anticipatory anxiety.
Anxiety. Oh my gosh, I couldn't say that
Yeah.
word. But that's true, because that's all you do. But
Well,
even
yeah.
adults have that, because you anticipate things, you
Yeah.
worry, you're never in the present moment, but you're just doing your what ifs, and what if this was to happen, and what if was to happen? What if I have a boyfriend and it leaves me? What if I don't get into college? Whatever
Mhm.
I fail? What if, so I
And
understand that.
yes. And what's another really good point, Myrna, is that, and for everyone listening and watching,
Mm,
we have to remember, and this is another thing that my high school therapist, who, really impacted my life in a really big way, but she also taught me this kind of metaphor where she said, Megan, your mind, it's your mind. So whatever you tell it to do, or if you start thinking, oh, tomorrow at, 11 a.m., I'm going to start feeling, like I'm going to start feeling horrible. Like if you start telling your mind one day in advance, oh, tomorrow, then guess what? You
Yeah,
are
it
going to
will
feel
happen.
horrible.
It
Exactly,
will
because
happen.
you
Yes,
are anticipating, but it's, you are telling your mind
correct.
is telling your body, hey, tomorrow 11 a.m., make an appointment, like put it in your planner. You're going, so we have to remember that there are, throughout one day, there are thousands of little chemical, neurotransmitter like reactions going on that are saying, like, we're constantly, as human beings, we are constantly taking in information and then kind of, twisting it into our own definition and something that's going to help us remember it and store it. We're also, interpreting other people's motives and their, information and what they do. And, it's just so helpful to remember that if you start thinking, I have no friends, I'm never going to have any friends, I'm going to feel alone and horrible and trapped, then you're going to feel pretty
Yep,
crappy. We
yep,
have to
yeah,
remember that our thoughts
yeah.
create feelings. It's a 2-in-1 package, just like at the grocery store. When you there's a discount where it's like buy, shampoo and conditioner for the price of one bottle of shampoo. You know, our thoughts, if you think all day long, oh wow, it's you're going to start feeling that way, whatever your thought is. So we have to remember, okay, wait, I don't want to think this way. And it's good to continuously be switching your mind into states of gratitude and feeling positive, because the more that you do it, the more that you are training your mind. And the thing that my high school therapist said was like, imagine, Megan, that your mind is like a dog on a leash. Like when you come home from school or come home from work, and or in the morning before stuff, you go and walk your dog outside and let the dog do its thing and like all that stuff. She said, what would be more productive for you, the owner of the dog, to walk the dog, but keeping that leash, in, because the dog is going to take off, keeping that leash in, and you go for like a 20-minute walk, and you are like directing the dog on where to go. Would that be more productive? Or would you letting the dog take control, right? And then you're like, go wherever you want, and then you're gone for 2 hours, and you've ended up in some random neighborhood, and the dog is stopping and smelling every acorn and pine cone. Like, what is more productive? And so she just said that, that's super helpful for people to visualize. Oh, right. No, it's true. My mind is a dog on a leash. Am I the owner and I'm telling my mind what to do and how to feel? Or are you going to live your life, like, oh, let the dog do its thing. I don't care. I don't know. So we have to make those active choices every day.
Well, I have teenagers, an 18-year twin girls, and
Yeah.
I will tell you that it's, and as a coach, I have always been trying to tell them about their thoughts, about, being,
Right.
having a purpose. Um, and I will tell you, they don't get it. So even with counseling, they don't get it. So I mean, I know that you've gone through counseling, you're in this space, I'm in this space. So I understand that. Even me, whenever I start to feel like my energy is not positive, I
Right.
do something to fix it immediately, because I know the
Yeah.
negative energy
Yeah.
attracts negative experiences in your life. So
Yes.
I understand totally when you're saying, hey, you know what? If you're telling your body
Mhm.
that tomorrow when you go to school that you are going to feel badly, that's exactly what's going to show up. But if we
Exactly.
broaden it to, maybe anybody that's listening,
Yes.
we're in a pandemic right now. And if
Yes.
you tell yourself
Mhm.
that, hey, you know what, I'm never going to find a job, maybe I'm going to lose my home, I'm going to get kicked out, or I'm going to lose my,
Right.
whatever you tell yourself, it
Right.
becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. What you need
Yep.
to do is visualize the way you want it. But I don't think
Yeah.
teenagers would, or a lot of people, not even teenagers, a lot of people, except that they're in the space that we're in, that
Right.
constantly do it every day and
Right.
practice it, are able to do that. Other than that, their mind is like that on the dog on a leash. It just goes wherever. So that is good. But I
Yes.
want to get a couple of questions in. And one of the questions I
Yeah.
want to talk about is, um, I understand your story. I
Yes.
understand that you your parents, or it's on your, it's in your DNA, the anxiety. I'm not going to try to say that word again. Your anxiety. But we want to talk about the epidemic of teenagers um being depressed and
Yeah.
anxious. In your studies, or in you're talking to a lot of kids in
Mhm.
school, and you're doing a lot of things, you're having podcasts and all that. What do you think is the reason for this?
Oh my gosh. I really think that, I mean, the COVID-19 doesn't help, but
Right.
I think the reason for why in, 2020 especially, so many teenagers are
But it was
really,
happening before 2020, so let's say the 20th century,
yeah,
the last 10 years.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
The last 10 years, I would say the last
Well,
10 years,
you went to high school in 2010, so
yeah,
yeah, it's we're in 2020 right now, so the last 10
yeah.
years. I mean, we don't want to focus on 2020 because 2020 is a different year. But
Mhm.
I know the teenagers were always having a problem with depression and anxiety. A lot of people blame it on the social atmosphere, the social culture. So I'm just wondering, why do you think it's happening? Yeah.
Um, I think it's happening because it's just, the culture of the society that we live in today. It's so different from the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s. I would say in 2008, I think, was when a huge switch happened where social
Okay.
media, really took off, like Facebook and MySpace and, everything. And I would say since 2008 to now 2020, it's just been a continual, just going up. It's like
Really?
every single day, there's Tumblr, there's Twitter, there's so many, you
No,
know,
yeah. Now there's TikTok. My
it's,
goodness.
it's insane. So
Mhm.
I mean, I think it's important for people to remember that, you know, um, social media, it's never really, in one way, it will always be changing, but in another way, it will never change because social media, it still does the same thing to human beings. It still triggers that, the fear of missing out. Oh, I didn't get invited to that party that I see on Snapchat, so, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, what's going on? And
right.
oh, this person is posing on a yacht with a celebrity, so their life must be great. But
Wow.
it still triggers that inner child, that inner teenager within all of us of, that time we didn't get invited to that thing, or that time that guy rejected us. I think for some people it doesn't, though. I don't think, not everyone feels that way, but I think for a lot of people, you know, social media, it really is a very negative thing. And I think it's important to really be aware of, one, how does it make you feel? How do you feel, before you go on Instagram versus after you go on Instagram? If it makes you feel like you're not doing enough, or you just existing, it's not enough. Like, if it makes you feel that way, then either get rid of it fully, or just limit, like cut back your time on it to like 20 minutes instead of, scrolling for like
Yeah,
3
that's
hours.
actually very true. And the likes thing, nobody liked my post and everybody liked that. And then another thing has been happening is the kids go on there and talk bad about each other. So then somebody is
Horrible.
trashing you on social
Yeah.
media. So what
Yeah.
I think I'm hearing you saying is that you agree that social media is the cause or is there more?
Well, I think social media isn't the direct cause of why so many teenagers are experiencing anxiety and depression, but I think it's a huge, I think it's a huge, like, it's maximizing it. I think it's a huge gateway into feeling anxious, and it is so triggering for people. I think also in today's culture, another really big reason of why so many teenagers are feeling this way is I think, pop culture, the mainstream media kind of, praises and romanticizes people with mental health conditions and people, who are doing like in every single song, a lot of teenagers love like rap music or, hip hop or electronic music. A
Mhm.
lot of the lyrics talk about doing drugs, getting drunk and high with your friends and how great that is.
That's true.
A
Even
lot
though
of,
I don't listen to those, but I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure that's what they're talking about because
yeah,
that's what gets them listens. Right, right.
yes.
Yep.
And
Hmm.
it's just, it's really sad though, because, a lot of teenagers, like worship and look up to all of these, and I'm not, bashing on anyone, but it's
Yeah,
really
you're
unfortunate
talking
though,
facts.
because
Yep.
yeah,
In fact, when you're talking now, I remember last year there was a couple of challenges for
yeah,
girls to sleep with guys, and you get a point. All these crazy things. You know what I mean? And maybe someone that's not. You know, I mean, because when I grew up, the more guys you slept with, you got called a name. But if you're going to switch it around and say the more guys you sleep with, you're popular, I don't know. But it's a crazy world for teenagers to be living in. And I just mentioned to you,
yeah,
I have 18-year-olds, and I'm not able to reach them. So I can understand what's going on in the world. So if I were to ask you,
yeah.
what message do you want to, what is your main message when you go to talk and at the schools? Maybe you can share that message now that we're in the air.
Oh my gosh. My main message is just to follow your dreams in life. I talk when I speak at schools, and currently I'm on, Zoom and doing talks with teenagers.
Mhm.
But once upon a time, it feels like a decade ago when
I know.
when I was allowed to speak at schools, I talked about mental health, self-care. I kind of touched on a lot of subjects, but
Okay.
the main takeaway is just follow your passions, just to really put yourself first, fill up your cup, take care of yourself, and you know just to, like, get to know yourself and get to know your body, and just really, respect yourself, because I think when you are a teenager, at least in my experience, I remember, like, when you're in high school, it's your whole world, it's just you get so sucked into, like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to go buy this, $85 shirt because this is what all the cool, like, you just get so
Yeah.
sucked into, like, and then like, you just
Being
don't,
popular, I think it is, right? You want to
yeah,
be popular, right?
yeah,
Yep.
you want to be popular and liked and
Yes.
included, and
Yes.
you want to date the hottest football player and then go to all the parties and all, but
Yeah.
it's like, I feel like when you're in that, you don't realize that once you graduate, you know your whole world is going to expand in such a different way, and you're going to look back and be like, like, high school's, it's a great time and it's an awesome place, but it's like this much of your whole entire life,
True.
you know
You
it's
just
not,
talked about it. Just 4 years.
it's just 4 years, but when you're in it, you think it
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
defines you, but it's like you grow, you're going to grow so much outside of high
Yeah,
school.
yeah, yeah. And then you go to college and then you got to start all over. It's different
Yeah,
anxiety because, you don't have to be popular, but then you still have the same thing. Yeah. So,
I know.
all
Yeah,
right. So that was great. I was able to understand your story
yeah,
from a teenager's perspective. You did a very good job
yes, yeah,
in you know translating your feelings, and I think it's because you probably have almost like a photographic memory. You remember the times and the days.
It's crazy.
So it made for a good conversation. You know, somebody that's in that space of feeling anxious and anxiety and in high school, or maybe a young adult or in college or wherever, you know, I think that they will be able to identify with what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, as we wrap up, I want to ask you, how did you become a TEDx talk speaker
Yes.
after battling anxiety? And the reason I ask that question is because most people that don't have anxiety speaking to a crowd.
Yeah.
And so you had to have really been healed in order to do that. So
Yes.
how did you do that? And make it brief.
Yes. Okay. So I would say, you know, it's really funny because a lot of people do say that. They're like, well, Megan, you know, like the number one fear in the world is like people are so afraid of public speaking and, you know, death and all these crazy, you know, the fear of airplanes and stuff.
Yeah, you're right. You touched on the top two.
Yeah. But I'm like, you know, I don't know. For me, it's like this, you know, growing up in middle school and high school, and even before that, I always loved being involved in the school plays. You know, even elementary school, I was in The Wizard of Oz and Pinocchio and, you know, all of these funny things. And I never really got the main roles, but I just, you know, I loved just, I don't know, being on stage for me. It gave me this like power and freedom where I felt like I could, you know, just like escape my reality for a minute. And I really felt like, wow, you know, I get to be someone else for a day. And, you know, I don't know. I think I also felt like I get to allow other people to, you know, just see a different side of me where I am powerful. And I, you know, like, I don't know, I can make other people laugh. It just made me feel really good. It made me feel accomplished and like I was good at something and talented. So
Good. And
yeah,
obviously what you're saying, that you were never afraid of it.
no, because you know, I think once again, our mind is always forming, you know, like reward systems and loops of, you know, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, and what we associate feelings with memories. So
Okay.
for me, I have a really positive, you know, association with being on stage because I've had very positive experiences and, you know, I was always, you know, applauded. Like I never was booed or anything that would like traumatize me and be like, I
Traumatize
can
you.
never come on stage again. So I was, you know, always like applauded and I'm like, this is so fun. I love this. And, you know, I want to do it again. It's funny because although in high school, you know, like I was not academically a good student, I was getting literally D's and F's. Anytime, you know, in class, we would have a debate or a presentation. I wanted to be the first one up. I just like,
Hey, so
you know,
this is your purpose. So yeah, that's why you're
yeah,
not scared of it. So that's
yeah, I
absolutely
always,
amazing. Yep, yeah,
yeah,
that's amazing.
yes, I always loved, you know, just being in front of people and speaking. And I mean, number one, I just love storytelling. To me, it's my passion in life. I love just, and I also, you know, I love lifting up other people through storytelling. I love, you know, watching someone's kind of mood and energy shift. And to me, that's, you know, very impressive. And it's like, wow, you know, I have that power to really flip someone's day around, you know, and I can, you know, look at someone and see if, you know, they're feeling down or something and then tell them a funny story, or like I know what to say to, you know,
Okay,
make them feel better and make them
good.
relax. And I really, you know, I feel like that's what I was put on earth to do. I
Well,
really
yeah,
feel,
it's coming through to me too,
yeah,
that you're definitely on your purpose. So that's amazing, amazing. All right, so we're almost fresh out of time. So let me ask you,
yeah.
how can those watching on YouTube and listening on the radio and podcast get a hold of you to do, you know, speaking at schools, or, you know, to connect with you? I know you've got a good brand, but how would they connect with you?
Yes. So I am really, I mean, I'm all over. So you can connect with me. I have Instagram. So it's at the @ symbol Megan, Megan W, my middle initial, and then Gallagher, which is Gallagher. And so you can DM me. I respond to all of my DMs, not the creepy ones, but I respond to the nice, normal ones. I also have my email, my contact information, so you can email me by going on my Instagram. I have my website. It is Megan, same thing, meganwgallagher.com.
Okay.
It has my, weekly, I write blogs every Sunday about mental health, parenting, teen anxiety. I have my blog, I have my books, I have, my contact info, and I have testimonials from what past people have said about me speaking at their school or to their teenager. I also have just, everything. I have, more about me and my bio and how I got started and why I am doing what I'm doing. And then I have, that same Megan W. Gallagher. I have Twitter, I have LinkedIn, Facebook, I have a personal page and a business page. I have YouTube. I have a lot of stuff. I have, I have YouTube where I upload weekly. I have a podcast too called Reaching New Heights, and it's, every single Sunday I release a new episode where it's all about me, talking to influencers, celebrities, singers, songwriters, dancers, actors about, their struggles as a teenager and kind of how they overcame that and how it, shaped them into the person that they are today.
Beautiful. My goodness. I mean, all the accolades I put on you and on your bio, you're adding some more now.
Oh gosh.
That's
You're
amazing.
so sweet. But you're one to talk. You've accomplished a lot.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. You made me remember maybe the reason that I'm here right now is because, like you, I love acting. I'm the one that would always put my hand up for presentations, and but I was going a different route. I wanted to be an actress. I won a Best Actress award, and I thought that's where I was heading.
Wow, that's incredible.
So I didn't head that way. I was packing my bags to go to Hollywood at one point, and never did get there. But hey, I love what I do now. I love being on the radio, on the podcast, and YouTube and all that. And it came from there. It came from a teenager, wanting to do drama and being on stage and actually loving it. So so thank you very much, Megan. That was an amazing interview, amazing story. I'm pretty sure your parents are proud of you because you took something that was bad and turned it into good, and now you're helping other people. And I believe that God gives you a story, or it gives you a testimony or a test, so you can have a testimony. That's what I'm saying. So your years in high school was your test, and it's your testimony, and you use it to springboard, helping others. So thank you, and that's amazing. We're out of time, so I'm just going to do a quick wrap up.
Okay.
The transcript of my talk with Megan will be on the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us. I will also have links there to her website, and go on our website, and you can connect with her on any of her social media platforms. I know I'm connected to you on LinkedIn, but I'll connect with you to all your other platforms, so when I post the episode, then I can tag you. I want to thank all of you for watching and listening to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life. This is the topics that we bring, information that will help you move from where you are to where you want to be, and listening to stories and listening to authors as they share their experience with you, then hopefully that helps you move forward. If you like the content, please remember to subscribe. Looking for subscriptions to my my YouTube channel, just search for Transform Your Mind Podcast YouTube. Of course, if you have iTunes, I would love for you to rate and review so that we can reach a wider audience. So Megan, thank you very much. Do you have any last words to give to anyone that's listening and how they can transform their mind by not being anticipatory? I still can't say that word.
By not being
Anxious. We're just going to say anxious.
by not anticipating negativity or
Right.
something
You could say
negative
it very
happening.
well. Right.
You know, I would say just remembering the dog on the leash analogy. Just, I feel like when you really remember that, it's so helpful to think, okay, you know what? I like our minds, you know, I can't just turn it on autopilot and be like, oh, you know, I'm tired or I'm done for the day. I'm just, you know, gonna think carelessly. Like, we always have to be mindful of, okay, you know, like, what am I thinking about? Because, you know, once again, is the dog, you know, taking control, or are you in control? Because once again, it also helps me, you know, to write down, like, on paper, what my actual thoughts, like, right now, like, what are they? Because that to me can kind of help me figure out, okay, well, you know, my thoughts are all over the place. Are they negative? Like, labeling them, you know, are they negative? Are they positive? Are they repetitive? Is it stuck in the past? Is it anticipating the future? And just, you know, like, labeling them and putting them into categories of, you know, are they helpful? Are they not helpful? Are they judging? Like, am I judging myself or judging other people? Just, you know, labeling them. But once again, it's just really remembering, you know, thoughts create feelings. So if you feel really crappy, if you feel not happy, if you feel like you're stuck in a rut, then, you know, what are you thinking? Because, like I said, if you think tomorrow, like, if you project that, you know, tomorrow at, you know, 1 p.m., I am going to feel horrible, then guess what? Tomorrow at 1 p.m., because your brain made that, oh, that, you know, you told your brain that. So then your brain is making that a reality by telling your body, you're going to feel horrible at 1 p.m. tomorrow, because that's how powerful our bodies are. So we have to remember that, you know, like, a pregnancy and a birth, it's like our thoughts are the pregnancy and the birth is like the feeling, and the, you know, the post, like the pre and the post, and like the effects that come with thinking negatively or positively.
Okay. Good job. Good job. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. So until next time, namaste.
Namaste. I love it. That's fun.